Sori.
That's Booby.
And Colby and Chip and Ghosty.
This is the Epic Underground, Virgin Black, A Poet's Tears of Porcelain.
Mm-hmm.
If you, dear listener, would like to join an alliance, you can, the tickets at the gates for $1 at patreon.com. We got the little link in the thingamajiggy.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get put into an alliance, and then you can make a case for a song. This is a song that has been made a case for quite some time. And
Today's the day.
right, so if you'll notice on our channel, there's a lot of songs that like nobody's reviewing. Some of that is by design because I like to do stuff different, but a lot of that has to do with the alliances. Is they're able to get bands listened to that normally wouldn't get the thousands of you need to listen to this song, you need to listen to this song. So that's the beauty of the alliance, right? It makes you listen to bands you've never heard before.
Did you say that Alliance is Patreon?
Yeah, it's Patreon.
Okay, I didn't hear you say that, but I was thinking about where's my water?
This is the Epic Underground group, Virgin Black, A Poet's Tears of Porcelain. Let's go.
All right. Left to right. And go.
As tears again meet you, my cheek, to your knees I cling. Oh, most merciful one, show your glory.
This was a surprise.
Yeah.
So I found an interview with
boy.
these guys at metalsucks.net. You're a Christian band. Can you tell us how, if at all, your religious beliefs play into your music?
They are Christian.
I feel compelled to broaden the parameters by saying that I'm more of an agnostic under the banner of Christianity.
Interesting.
That means that while I have an unerring belief in the basic ideals of Christianity, within those wide parameters I am searching. This is not out of any sense of being unfulfilled, but born more of a need to be constantly genuine.
Well, that's cool.
That's like a couple...
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any names. You know who you are! A couple people in our village are like that. Agnostic Christianity.
Uh-huh.
Who will one day sit among the Elohim, inshallah. Yeah, I have a strange bias. I'm happy that she's not like completely a Christian. I like it when non-Christian bands
Yeah.
say stuff about God. I don't really like it when Christian bands say things about God. I don't know why. But I don't know, it seems to me more authentic to me when a non-Christian
Yeah,
band
I agree.
writes lyrics to God, because like it's going against the grain of
Yes.
what they're supposed to
Yeah.
do, whereas it's a Christian band, it's like,
So it's like, oh, we
eh.
have to write something about God, so what are we going to write?
So there's
instead?
always like an asterisk to
Yeah.
me. Like,
No, I'm with you 100 on that one.
and I've never heard of these guys before either.
No, this is chosen by Silver.
Yeah, Virgin Black, I've never heard in the Christian, torch
Yeah. Yeah.
So that means they're probably too dark to
Oh my gosh.
to be
it was
classified
so
as a
beautiful.
Christian band. But subhanAllah, it was a freaking beautiful song. Okay, yeah.
Sombre romantic.
Aesthetically speaking, they're not putting out, a very Christian look, and I'm glad. Obviously, that should probably be the thumbnail right there. But that's a freaking beautiful song. Good
Yeah.
Lord. And then
Yeah.
it's kind of,
I'd love to hear these people live.
yeah, I'd like to see them live, and I'd like to see them on a tour with Batushka. This is another band I'd like to see with Batushka, because I think it would be a pretty crazy experience.
Mm-hmm.
But the stuff that she was saying, like her...
Was it a woman? Why are you saying she? I don't even remember a woman.
Oh yeah, it's a woman.
I remember like background stuff.
Like, yeah, the woman is like the head of the band. Like, she's leading the band. What's her name?
Singing.
Samantha Escarbe.
Yeah, but when I didn't even.
She write. I mean, I guess she's the writer or whatever. But
I just heard a man singing the whole time. I might have heard some background
yeah,
stuff.
Rowan and I wrote everything, all the orchestration, yada yada yada.
Go to that Genius thing. It usually says who does the vocals and stuff.
Done this
'Cause I don't
time.
remember. Oh.
Done this time. But there's not a lot about these guys. But I'm assuming she wrote the lyric. Whoever it was, I don't really care who did it. There's a lot of reverence for God in this in this record.
Oh man.
And I was waiting for the punchline, and it was kind of like listening to Batushka for the first time. Like, you're waiting for the punchline, you're waiting for the, man, God sucks and I hate him, and it wasn't like that. And that was the last song on the track.
Yeah.
That was the last song on the record, so there's nothing to say after that.
Yeah.
I mean, good night. That's
Great is your holiness. The last line.
yeah. This is why I'm a post-millennialist, M-Def fan. You got these people writing better worship music than Christians do.
I didn't even know it was a Christian, thing. I just when I was listening, I just was like, whoa.
Yeah, and again,
Started praying.
yeah, they're not really saying we're a Christian band.
Right.
Like, I'm
yeah.
agnostic.
Well, yes, no, yeah. I'm saying I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, these guys, we definitely need to come in contact with them, though, for sure. That's the ambiguous, mysterious Virgin Black news. So anyway, I'll tell you what. This is my favorite form of Christianity right now. I'll say that.
Yeah.
The searching type of but it's like we said at the Bible Bash, you don't have to be completely dyed in the wool on everything to be accounted as a follower of Jesus.
Right.
Like, do I believe that you should? Yes, I believe you should believe everything from Genesis to Revelation. Yeah, but that's not the requirement. So when a person says like, yeah, I'm kind of agnostic, but at the same time, and they have this type of relationship with God, like, it's more authentic than other people who suppress the things that they doubt and then never are able to enter into any like real authentic walk with God. As tears again bedew my cheek, to your knees I cling, O merciful one. Show me your glory. Was I not bruised? Have you not healed?
But those words were different when that part of the song came out. Did you hear it sound a little different?
Yeah.
It sounded like it was like the response. I was like, oh my gosh.
Why? What do you mean by that?
Well, because of Isaiah, when it says he was bruised, he was crushed for our iniquities and stuff like that.
Isaiah 53, that Jesus was bruised, right?
Yeah, so, and then it says, by his stripes we are healed. So, meaning like when he was being killed on the cross, all the things that were happening to him was for our healing.
Right.
So, so that's what it made me think of. Like, the person, it sounded like was going through a hard time and they were clinging to the knees of the merciful one, which to me, Jesus is the merciful one. And then he says, the person saying, show me your glory. And then Jesus responds back with saying, was I not bruised? Have you not healed?
Yeah, but how does the have you not healed
Because
work?
As tears again bedew my cheeks, so to your knees I cling, O merciful one. Like, the person sounds like they're in trouble. And he's saying, whether the person is feeling the weight of their own sin or something else.
Oh, was I not bruised? Have you not healed?
Right, Jesus is saying that to him. Like, wasn't I? Because the answer is, yes, I was bruised. Yes, you have been healed. But sometimes you don't know or feel that healing even though you have it.
Right, he was bruised for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. And with his stripes we are healed. So you're saying, the guy is saying, show me your glory. Jesus responds by saying, was I not bruised? Have you not been healed by my bruises?
Right, which is my glory.
I see. Which is
and
his
yours.
Glory. Right, John 12, right?
Yeah.
John 12 puts Jesus' crucifixion as his glory.
Yeah.
And then...
John 12, what does it say?
Yeah, John 12... John 17, when Jesus talks about his time to be glorified in the Gospel of John, he's talking about his crucifixion.
Right.
And when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw him into myself. And that's a double entendre, because lifted up in Isaiah 52:13, behold, my servant shall act wisely, he shall be high and lifted up. Mm-hmm. So
it's exaltation.
Right, it means to be exaltation, but you also literally get lifted up when you're crucified.
Yeah.
And then obviously Isaiah 52 goes right into Isaiah 53, which talks about his crucifixion.
Right.
So,
do you think the lifted up can also be resurrection too?
Yeah, it's a triple. Well, it's a quadruple entendre, right? Because it's lifted up in glory, lifted up in crucifixion, lifted up in resurrection, and lifted up in ascension.
Right.
Jesus. Yeah, you couldn't. People could. Well, it's kind of what happened in the Bible Bash, where we saw how intricately the Bible connected over time with all these different authors and different languages, how it's connecting for one pretty ridiculous story. Which is one of the reasons I believe it.
I'm sorry, finish, because what I'm going to say is kind of on the more funny side.
No, you're good.
Okay, remember when I said that extremely racist thing to you, but I didn't realize it was racist, and I said about rap music being unintelligent.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it kind of reminds me of the same situation here. Like, first of all, if you actually break down the lyrics on rap music, like if you think rap music is dumb, like just take any one of the songs and take the lyrics and try to explain what the person's meaning. You probably won't have a clue unless you're from that culture and you have to understand all the different angles and the stories and all the different things that they're bringing. And when you break it down, I'm like, so there's like 15 stories going on in this one song.
Right. When I come back like Jordan wearing the 4-5, it ain't to play games with you, it's to aim at you, prime aim at you. If I owe you, I'm blowing you to smithereens. Like, people don't see what he's saying.
No.
When Michael Jordan retired, when he played the first time, he was number 23. He retired, and then he came back wearing the number 45. Uh-huh. Jordan wore the number 23 in honor of his brother, because his brother always wore number 45, and he was basically saying, I'm half as good as my brother.
Aww.
So he wore the number 23, because 23 is basically half of 45. Yeah. And then when he came back wearing 45, right? But so Jordan had retired and then he came back. Well, Jay-Z had retired. He said, I'm retiring, but then he came back. Right?
Yeah.
And Jay-Z is basically the Michael Jordan of rap.
Yeah.
But obviously now when Jay-Z's saying, when I come back like Jordan wearing the 4.5, he's talking about a 45 caliber weapon.
Right.
Right? It ain't to play games with you, it's to aim at you, probably maim you. So there's...
Right, to play games with you because the basketball
Right, I'm not playing
games.
games.
You because of the gun reference.
Sadat. Right.
But you just like hear all those words and it just looks like...
Yeah, there's a whole history behind it.
Yeah,
The history of why he wore the number 45 and yeah.
It kind of just sounds like they're just like making rhymes out of just words, anything that works, but there's actually stuff behind it. So
the craziest one I ever heard, I know where you're going, but the craziest one I ever heard was these two girls were rapping. And then the girl said, and let this calendar for trying to predict my end. Mm-hmm. I was like, yo!
We'll let that sit there.
That was doing 2012. That was in 2012 with the Mayan calendar.
Yeah.
And so she was using accenting to
you do that in yours.
To use the punchline. That's extremely difficult to do. So if you're an outsider and you have no idea why literally a room full of like 300 people just exploded.
Yeah.
Let that Cal and her for trying to predict my end. Mayan calendar.
Oh, yeah.
And it was 2012, and she's talking about the caliber of a weapon, which would end the girl that she's battling because the girl was trying to predict her end. Like, you gotta be a really intelligent person
to come up with that.
I mean, it's pretty crazy. So you're right. I mean, that's what happens when you're an inside. You know, for people on the outside, like, oh, the Bible.
Well, yeah. When somebody says the Bible is just a bunch of like, it's just a bunch of
backwoods, Bronze Age.
Like, you don't know what it really says.
You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah. The backwood Bronze Age people. I don't know what they were doing.
One verse that we just said. Like, how many people would have known that? We just came up with 4 meanings for that one verse, like on the spot. Like, of how he was going to be lifted up and draw people to himself?
Well, it wasn't on the spot because I've talked about that verse a lot, and we've had this literally the identical conversation.
Well, I mean, like, talking about it, like, in here on the camera, like, just, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm sure that there's a bunch more meanings than just that.
Like, Tina brought something up in the middle of a Bible bash that was, like, mind-blowing crazy. I mean, it happens every single time I open the Bible. Like, there's always something where it's like, holy crap, this is crazy. What they're actually saying and how they made the thing work and fit in, and there are certain passages where words are left out on purpose. That, like, the line is repeated and then a certain word is left out on purpose, and then if you look at the overarching context you see why. So it's pretty crazy stuff. But whenever I hear people, say stuff like that, I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, go ahead. So to your point, that's what you're saying about the Bible. It's just like you have to be an insider to really know like how pretty crazy it is. But there's also the concept that God is the bruiser and the healer simultaneously. Job 5:18. For he wounds, he binds up. He shatters, but his hands heal. Mm-hmm. So it could be the person also talking to God, saying like, "Was I not bruised and have you not healed?" We've been through this before, because he's talking about silence here. So he's basically saying, "Look, we've been through this before. Then why are you staying quiet?" Which is something that.
But it sounded different, like sonically that part, like it sounded like another voice. I'm not going to be able to find it. I'm not good at that.
Well, it's at the beginning. It's right here.
Right there. So you remember what it sounded like before this? It's probably going to be all the way over here. Wait for it.
That's the beauty of it. It just hit pause.
Yeah, I know, but I was trying to stretch it because
that's the beauty of it. It could be both.
Yeah.
Because it works that way. Is that God in the Bible is the bruiser and the healer. Mm-hmm. And even in the Isaiah 53 context, it says, later on it says that it pleased the Lord to crush him, he has put him to grief. So that's one of the, it's one of those questions that I'm waiting for Ian to figure out, like, hey, wait a second, it says here that God is the one that bruises us.
Yeah.
You know, and God's the Father is the one that bruised Jesus. That's what it says in order for us to be healed. So, you know, that's a that's one of the major themes in the scriptures, that God will bruise you and he'll also bind you up. And
it's extremely important because there's so much, like, that's like one of the top 10 questions is, how can bad things happen? How can there be a God and bad things can happen?
right,
You know, but
right.
he does both. That's not a satisfactory answer, obviously. Like, just hearing that out was like, can feel maddening. Like,
Well, there's certain things that I didn't understand until I became a father, and the more and more I realize it, you have an advantage if you have children in relating to God, because you know we just recently put Orion in a situation where we laid him on a table and we let people that we didn't know and that he didn't know jam needles and draw blood. You know, we were vaccinating him. So we wounded him, and you know, we also healed him. You put the Band-Aid on him and give him his Tylenol. Like
but I don't know if that's...
we wounded him in order to heal him, which I know, you know, I know where you're coming from. So
I think more of like you know, like discipline. Right now the kids are grounded because of something they did, and they feel like we're the worst parents in the world because we've grounded them.
Sori's a quasi anti-vaxxer, so she doesn't really look at vaccinating your kid is like wounding them in order to heal them. But
because I worry about, I'm like, wait, but some kids, you know, something happens or whatever. But I know that, you know, like if you're grounding them, so you're trying to teach them their future, that's definitely something that they feel is horrible, but it's actually something that's going to be good for them.
Yeah, but for the rest of us that are good with the science and vaccination, like, you know, it's a ritual that all of us do, but you know, you know, and it's probably the most pain the little man's experienced in his entire life so far.
I know.
So, you know, and I, as his father, I was superintending the whole thing. You know, I planned it. I orchestrated that entire situation. And I let those ladies hold him down on a table, and I could have stopped it at any moment. I could have said, no. Like, up to the point when they were jamming the needle into his leg. I could have said, no. But I didn't. I orchestrated it, I put the situation in place, I let it happen, and there's no way I can explain to Orion right now about polio. Or all the other things that the vaccination does to take care of him. So, I had a moment like that with Dorian, you know, because he was the first one that I did that to, and that, like, 15 years of life questions a lot. Immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I said, oh.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Okay. And then it was a weird thing because, like, I stopped even asking why certain things happen. Because,
really?
Well, the reason is because as I got older in life, I looked back and there were a lot of things that became absolutely obvious where I was like, oh, that's why. And then there was still a whole bunch of unanswered stuff. But then when I had that and I said, well, if you're a father, you're not going to put your kid in a painful situation unless there's some greater benefit. And many times you will never be able to explain to them why you did it. Because a 3-month-old or he's not even 3 months old, a 2-month-old knows nothing about polio or influenza and all these other things that we're doing to take care of them. You see what I'm saying? So, and like, for example, if somebody does get polio because they weren't vaccinated, then their parent basically did the same thing, only in reverse. They didn't allow their child to be in that situation and expose their child to risk and greater pain in the future, but they could say, I did that because I was afraid of these other ramifications. It's the same concept, is that as a parent, you make decisions to hurt your kids. One way or another, when you're talking about the vaccination question, it's inescapable. So I just think that so for me, like, that line, was I not bruised, have you not healed, like, that to me is like, when you add the Isaiah 53 angle, that's even deeper, but that's just a life thing for me where, you know, but again, God speaks a lot to me through the kids and through being a father and through, recognizing that God is a father and then being a father. It makes you really realize, oh, okay. I get it now. All right, I'm good now.
Yeah, I mean, and it definitely, like, the Bible talks about children being a gift from God.
Right.
And, like, when you think about, like, because sometimes the kids will be doing something, I'm like, okay, you're not going to understand this, but when you have kids, you're going to get it. On lots of different things. They'll say, who do you love the most? I'm like, I love you guys all differently. Like, everybody, it's just different, And then, they're like, yeah, right, we don't believe that and whatnot. And then I'm like, wait till you get kids, you'll see. Like, it just, and then when you think, okay, like, God doesn't show us everything or explain everything to us, but, like, I don't know, like, I don't think God comes up with ideas because he knows everything, so he doesn't come up with an idea, but basically just like, all right, I'm going to let them have kids so that way they can understand, because there's only some things that our kids will understand when they have children of their own, and there's only things that we understood because we had children, and our understandings that we've gotten from having kids are meant to help us to understand God. So, I don't know, just thinking about that angle and being like, yeah, like that's another reason that kids are a gift for lots of reasons, but one of the reasons is so that way we can understand God.
That has been the main gift to me with the kids is it gave me a much broader understanding of God and myself, and it made me a much worse defender of Christianity though, because that question used to, why do bad things happen to good people? I used to devote so much time to philosophically trying to work around and answer that question and all that. And I'm not saying that those are bad things. Those are good things. But for my own personal peace and well-being, is that moment at the doctor's office. That was it. And I've had about 4 or 5 of those moments where I go, oh well. They dance to silence, but your song I hear. Whoo! That's a crazy line.
Ah.
They dance to silence, but your song I hear. Meaning the things that get people moving and the things that are, in the world that are considered amazing cannot compare to hearing God's voice, which is it's one of the worst things to talk about, hearing God's voice and hearing God's song and all. It's one of the worst things to talk about because you will always feel like you're not doing it justice and that nobody knows what you're talking about. And I don't care so much about sounding like a crazy person, although, like I was saying with you, like we're doing the Divine Counsel stuff at the Bible Bash, I was like, somebody's going to think that this is just... Somebody's like, oh, that's why you believe that Odin is real. So sometimes I'm like, but it's just a very, very difficult thing to describe. God's voice and what that means and how it affects you and how you know it's him and it's incomparable. But I've been in, I remember being in places where, like, you can love people and people can love you, but I remember I was in this one particular situation and it just struck me, and I remember saying, like, I'm alone, like I cannot relate to these people at this deepest level. It was weird. I was in a basketball court full of guys and everybody loved me and hey, Vin, and I loved them, and we're gonna go for Gatorade afterward or whatever. And there was just one moment where I was just like, I am on the outside here, like I'm not, and God was like, yeah, you're not. And it was a sad moment, but at the same time it was like, because and again, like, it's hard to explain, but I was in a certain, by God's grace, level of consciousness of God that they just didn't have. And it wasn't because I had attained some level. Most of the stuff that God gives me is, I'm very convinced, he just feels sorry for me. So it wasn't like something that I earned, you know what I mean? It was just something that, boom, and I just had this like moment of God and consciousness of God and the value of a human soul and all that. And I knew that all those people that I was surrounded by had no idea and could never relate to what I was saying. And it happens to me a lot in church too. You know, it's like So, I mean, that was a pretty crazy line. They dance to silence, but your song I hear. You know, because it's like, there's no way to say that without coming off sounding condescending or, who do you think you are? You know, like.
Well, it's tough too because, you know, like you talk to different people and some people want to hear God's voice and they don't hear it.
Right.
And I don't know why that is the case. And that's very difficult for me. That's actually really, really difficult for me because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, like I've heard from him, like I know, and like in my, you know, like some people could say, oh well, you know, like that's just like whatever voices inside your head or whatever, but like I've gotten like, I don't think most people have had the kind of clarity that I've gotten, and you know the kind of clear direction and stuff that I've been able to know and do that I would have had no clue about if God hadn't said something to me about it. So so it's hard for me, and it's kind of like been like that all of my life. So it's difficult for me to be like, well, why, you know, there's some people that say, well, I want to hear something, like, why won't you talk to me?
We had Lo.
I know, I didn't want to bring her name out because I didn't know
I mean, she did the whole thing with, but we had Lo who was really going through a terrible time. Her brother, you know, things were really difficult for her, and
that's exactly what I was thinking about.
I mean, but she's still young, and her story is still being told.
Yes.
So
true.
So I'm not, you know, I'm not completely hopeless about it, but it is a tough question. Like, you know, why wouldn't you? That seemed like the perfect time to show up and because you know, and it's like I said, like, okay, that question is still hanging. Like, there's a couple questions that are like completely settled for me, but questions like that are still hanging. Like, why would you do that? You know, why would you? You know, it seems like the perfect time, and she was crying out to you, and you know, I'm not going to sit there and say, no, Lo, you were lying. And, like, no, I mean, but then he randomly gives me this ridiculous revelation at a basketball court when I wasn't looking for it. You know, it's found by those who did not seek me. You know, he says. So his you know. But it goes to here, which is he's fathomless. Like you cannot, you know, put the Christian phrase, putting God in a box. You know, it's usually a cop-out phrase, but you know, it's what is it, Isaiah? As far as the heavens are from the earth, so are my ways above your ways. You know, my ways are not your ways. Like. Period. Full stop. Like that's so. The way I would do things, you're not going to understand. Nobody can say to him, "What have you done?"
Right.
Or why have you done this? You know, like, meaning he's not accountable to anybody to explain his actions. You know, and it depends on you. When you hear verses like that, it depends on how you perceive God. If you perceive God as saying, "Hey, I don't report to you," you screw you guys. I was literally
just thinking that. I'm like, well, it depends on what angle you're looking at that.
Right, but if you look at God as a father, and it's just like, look, you're not going to understand it. Just trust me. Like, those are completely different vibes. And it depends on who you are and how you've experienced God and how you've experienced your own dad and how you interpret that phrase. You know, none can say to him, stay your hand, or say to him, what have you done? You know, like, it depends on how you look at God. Most people look at God as just, hey, man. Most people look at God as the way that they would be if they were God.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like, oh, well, I don't report to any. I do whatever I want, you know. And he's not like that. What he's saying is like, look, fam, I love you, but I don't report to you. Like, and when kids start feeling like their parents report to them, then it's time for a reality check, which is what you see in Job, right? Like, God's like, well, where were you?
Right.
Tears flow, but the water is sweet. Woo!
Oh my gosh.
This is a person with a real, authentic walk with God. Because if you've ever been in that situation, good night. Good Lord. I think that's the difference between this and a lot of Christian music. Like, a lot of Christian music is like, but like, there are certain things that you hear where you go, okay, this person, like, you know, that's such a true statement. Tears flow, but the water is sweet. What were you saying with that?
No, I just agree with just times, you know, with God and times of prayer and stuff like that, and just, you know, like, you're crying, and like there were times when Selah was little, like when I would be having my time with God, and like she would come in, she'd be like, Mommy, you're crying, because she was so little, she didn't know. And I was like, no, it's like happy, like it was just like good times with God, and just, you know, worship times, mostly when it was just worship, like it was just good, it was just sweet, it was good. So that's what, you know, I thought of.
Yeah. Holy Lord, fathomless God, I fall as one dead. Blessed be priest and friend.
With quivering lips.
That's a good line. Blessed be priest and friend. I think some pagans use that term, blessed be, which is another discussion. Shout out to all my pagans up in the house. Blessed be priest and friend, all heavens bow in admiration. I think that's something that's probably missing from Protestantism is the role of the priest. Which is, it's really interesting because, you know, in Protestantism, it's like, hey, we've got the priesthood of all believers, everybody's a priest. But I was watching an interview one time with this Protestant guy, and he was wearing one of those collars. Mm-hmm. And the guy goes, why are you wearing that? You know, they were actually pastors of the same church, and one of them was like against it, mm-hmm. and the other one was obviously for it because he was wearing it, and so the one that was, so they were doing an interview. It was really actually pretty cool. Like, hey, we disagree on this. We're going to show you a mm-hmm. conversation. I thought it was really cool. But basically, the traditional Protestant asked the other guy, why are you wearing the collar? And he was basically saying, look, you know, if when a fireman walks down the street, you know, okay, if there's a fire, that's the guy. If a cop is walking down the street, if somebody snatched your purse, that's the guy. So mm-hmm. When you're in a spiritual fire, or you're in a spiritual, somebody stole something for you, and you see me walking down the street, you know, I'm the guy that you can randomly pull and say, bless me, or pray for me, or whatever. Yeah. And I was like,
that's true.
Okay.
Yep, I remember that.
I can see that. I can see that. That makes a ton of sense. I don't really know you know, and a lot of Protestants are afraid of, you know, things that feel too Catholic. You know, Catholics did not invent the term priest. Mm-hmm. They didn't invent rosary beads. They didn't, you know, they didn't invent any of that stuff. So, you know, I always had people like, why are you wearing that? Da 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 da. It's like Martin Luther prayed his rosary faithfully, you know, till the day he died. So I don't know what to tell you. Mm-hmm. I like that. Blessed be priest and friend. Those are not the same thing.
When he said that, I thought I was thinking of him still, again, now he's talking again to God, that he's the, you know, Jesus, that Jesus is the priest, but also his friend.
Yeah.
What did you get out of that?
It's very possible. I might be underestimating their theological acumen, which is very possible, because in the Bible, Jesus is called not only a priest, but the great high priest, mm-hmm. and really the final priest. And he's also called our friend. Was it John, you know, 14, you're my friends if you do what I command. Greater than all of this, no man that lay down his life for his friend. So. And
Abraham was called a friend of God.
Abraham's friend of God, Hebrews 11. So yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, it could be he's talking about, you know, and in the context, it looks like he's having a conversation with God. So that's mm-hmm. probably what he's talking about. That's true. All heavens bow in admiration. This is so funny. All heavens bow in admiration. Mm. Our Bible Bash class will especially appreciate that line.
Yep. True.
You know, blessed be priest and friend. All heavens bow in admiration. Fathomless depth, measureless height. Great is your holiness. Allahu Akbar. Whoo! It's a good song. This is probably the best Christian song I've heard ever, as far as like metal goes.
Oh man,
it's like you're on.
That's going on the playlist.
You're on holy ground listening to this song. Mm-hmm. Good Lord! Shout out to Silver Kyrie.
Yeah.
Shout out to Silver Kyrie. We were about to do another song, and I was like, oh, let's just do some Patreon Alliance picks. We haven't done that in a couple days. Thank you very much, Silver. Good Lord.
This one's an 11 for me.
We're gonna listen to this song at the beginning of the next Bible Bash, Ian. No, I'm just messing with you. Well, I mean, if there's a song, if there's like a Bible Bash about suffering or something like that, then yeah, we need to get that uploaded. By the way,
it didn't upload?
No, I killed the upload yesterday because we were uploading the Slipknot thing. because it wasn't scheduled.
Oh, okay.
I told them within 48 hours, so I'm already late. But anyway, what do you give the song?
An 11.
Man, you don't give out 11s.
Nope. This one was definitely an 11 for me.
Yeah,
Took me somewhere. The lyrics.
This is an
surprised
11,
me.
and I'm definitely going to be listening to this a lot more often for sure. And it's one of those songs where it's probably, you know, songs find you at certain times when they're necessary.
Yep.
I really believe that. So there you
Yeah.
go. Good song. Virgin Black, ladies and gents. Double 11s. I don't think that's ever really happened.
No,
where we
it
both
hasn't,
gave a
because
song
I don't give
11.
out 11s.
We'll have to reach out to Kai, but I'm pretty sure that this is the first time we've both given out an 11 on a song. All right, there you go. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.
Fathomless God.